tonight.
And I need you more than ever.
La la something, 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 something. A total eclipse of the hearts.
Hey everybody, welcome to We Watch TV, the podcast about the TV that we watch. I am Daniel, she is Hope. This is episode 64. Did you see anything interesting in the sky recently?
All everybody has been talking about around here is eclipse this, eclipse that. I feel like we kind of had information overload on the eclipse because we happened to be in a hospital waiting room for about 8 to 9 hours one day with just
fun.
The Weather Channel on repeat. And when the Weather Channel doesn't have a big hurricane to talk about, it just rotates topics. So we learned a lot about the Cherry Blossom Festival, some ice festival or something, right?
Somewhere.
And then, of course, they talked about the eclipse ad nauseum. And then everybody around here has been an eclipse frenzy because we were not completely in the path of totality, but we were close.
We were in the 90% coverage area.
And, you know, for me, I was like, kind of, it's just okay. I'm sure I've seen pictures of people that were in the path, and that looked really cool. It did get darker here, but it reminded me of like when a storm's about to roll through.
Well, it didn't help
that
about like 20 minutes before it started, an actual like dense cloud cover rolled through, and so it was already, you couldn't see any shadows on the ground, and so that kind of dulled the experience.
But it did get darker because after the eclipse, it did brighten up a little bit. But what I thought was the weirdest thing was the temperature. Like it did get cooler because it was pretty warm on eclipse day, and then we went out there to watch it, or basically watch it. It just seemed kind of dark and cloudy.
We didn't have the glasses, so it's not like we were looking up at the sky or anything.
We just were out there just to be like, okay, is it going to get dark? What's it going to do? And that was one of the first things I noticed because it was a warmer day. I was like, oh, it does feel a little cooler. And then I saw that people that were in the full path of totality, that like people were saying like it was like an 8 to 10 degree like temperature drop or something.
Well, thankfully that's over with.
You're not into eclipse frenzy?
I'm not into hearing about it constantly. I'm not into...
I do like the song though, Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Having to remind everyone...
Great song.
Not to look up at the sun.
Well, people shouldn't look up at the sun like every day.
Ever.
I find it disturbing that they had to put messaging out about that, but it takes me back to the early days of the pandemic where like the news stations were showing people to like how to wash their hands and telling people you need to wash your hands like before you prepare food or like go to the restroom, and I'm like, wait a minute. Why do we have to tell people to do this? So, yeah, society can be concerning.
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to, I think one day, these happen around the world. I think I heard on average like every 18 months. Obviously, they don't happen in places that we can easily drive to as often. Maybe one day when I'm old and retired, I'll take the trek to wherever one is and look at it that way. But, I mean, it's just the sun going in front of them, or the moon going in front of the sun. I mean...
I think that people experience things differently. Like I saw like people were talking about how they cried where they saw it. And I'm like, I would hate on that. But I've also cried at commercials before. So emotions bring out different things. Not everybody cries at a sporting event. I've cried at multiple sporting events. So I'm not here to judge if you got emotional and cried during the eclipse, considering I've cried.
At the end of the day,
games.
as advanced as we like to think humans are, we're just a bunch of silly little mammals running around on this globe, and that big astronomical event happens and we all just lose it one way or the other. So,
well, that's a very fun note. But speaking about
it reminds us all how small we are.
But speaking about a trip around the sun...
Yeah, it's your birthday coming up here.
Well, at the time that this podcast comes out, my birthday has already happened.
Oh, okay. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
29.
That's
again.
Right. 29 again. It is your birthday. You get to celebrate your birthday. This is my second podcast birthday.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It is your second podcast birthday. I only had the one.
It is your birthday.
And I'm not celebrating this coming birthday for me, so...
That you have a milestone birthday coming up.
It's a milestone on a holiday. I'm not happy about it.
Well,
I don't want to talk about it.
Daniel, you have like tier 1. That's a tier 1 holiday. Like I consider Thanksgiving, Christmas like tier 1 holidays.
Which is the worst time to have a birthday.
Exactly.
It's the worst. It's the worst. I've had a pumpkin pie with candles in it in my life.
And
because everybody's
you said you didn't want to do that.
We're all together, so let's
Yeah.
let's go ahead. We're all here for Thanksgiving, Daniel, so let's just go ahead and have
I've
your
been
party.
forbidden to do that.
I don't even think that year my birthday was technically on Thanksgiving, but it was just close enough that they were just like, shucks, let's do it.
And like I said, I have been forbidden from doing that for you. The last time your birthday fell on Thanksgiving, which was another milestone birthday, we had some people come over to my parents' house the night before, and the cakes that I ordered said Happy Thanksgiving on them, so we wouldn't acknowledge the event. But you do like your birthday, and we will celebrate it. Maybe not on the actual day, but we have a whole thing planned, which I'm sure we'll talk about on the podcast, and we'll be celebrating your birthday a little bit earlier too.
Yeah.
My birthday hasn't happened yet, even though it has happened when you listen to this. So our plans for what we're doing are still up in the air. Every time you ask me, I either get really excited or really emotional about it.
Some point,
birthdays are emotional.
At some point, I have to make reservations if you want
Yeah.
to do certain things, and it's getting a little irritating that you keep telling me, well, I'm not sure. And I'm like, okay, but the place that you might want to go to, they
true.
need to be sure.
That's true.
So we need to be
As
sure.
long as I
soon.
have some type of cake or sweets, I'm usually pretty
I can take
happy
care
on
of
my
that part
birthday.
for sure. It's whether I'm cooking for you or someone else is cooking for you is kind of the big question here.
That was one of the first things that when Daniel and I first really became friends before we were even dating, I was like, okay, what do you want to do for your birthday? And I guess he's like, no one's really ever asked me that. And I was like, well, what kind of cake do you want? And he's like, well, I don't know if I want a cake. I'm like, okay. Birthdays are a chance for every one of us to enjoy your birthday and partake in your cake and the sweets, an excuse to celebrate. That's what birthdays are. I agree with you, though. I would be probably bummed if I had a birthday near a tier 1 holiday. Especially, I don't think it would bother me so much as a grown-up, but as a kid, I think that would have bothered me a little bit more. Like my cousin, his birthday is on Christmas Eve, and I remember they would do that often for him, too. They'd be like, here's a Christmas and a birthday present.
I think Christmas might be worse than the Thanksgiving. That might be the worst one. If you're around Christmas, within a couple days, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, or the couple days around it, that might be the worst birthday to have a holiday to have a birthday on. But Thanksgiving's no fun because
What
it just
about leap
randomly
year, though?
shows up on you. Do you remember the day that it just dawned on me and I looked and I didn't realize I'm turning 40, okay? I'm turning 40 on Thanksgiving Day this year. Do you remember what, my whole day was off because I just
think we
realized.
knew that, though, but then we forgot about it because it was one of those things that you do, when you turn 30, you look up when the next milestone's going to be, and we made a joke about it then, but, time
That was 10
comes
years
fast.
ago.
But I don't think you heard me. Leap year.
That's a weird one, but I don't know. I think you could have fun with that one.
Well, Cam on Modern Family technically had his 10th birthday.
Yeah,
And then Sue Heck, isn't she? She's leap year too.
I think so.
So I think that it would be fun to be like, oh, I'm 10.
Yeah, I think you could play with that one. Plus, Leap Day is not a celebrated holiday where people have pre-existing plans. Because what do I like to do on my birthday?
Not see anyone.
That is
Except
correct.
me and Marvin, we don't count.
And so, what am I going to have to do on my birthday this year? See everyone.
That's why we're celebrating. But see, I guess one of the great debates that you guys are getting an insight into our relationship right now. One of my family, we enjoyed birthdays, but I've always been the type of person that I've hardly ever celebrated on the actual day of my birthday because I was either in school or I had a track meet or I was doing something. So I've always been that's fine. If my birthday falls on a random Wednesday or something, I'm like, whatever, I'll celebrate it this day on the weekend. And for me, I've always been good with that. Now, of course, I still would probably have cake or sweets or something on the actual day. But in terms of celebrations, I've always been that way. And you and I are not the same in that. You are it is that day that you celebrate. And I'm like, sweetie, I get the whole month. Any day of this month that I can celebrate.
She does.
And I just
She
like how I've
tries to
always
take
been.
the whole month for sure.
April is always one of my busiest time of year. It was when I was in school. It is as an adult. And I remember so many years, especially in high school, we would have track meets on my birthday. So I'm not really getting to even really eat cake or have much fun when I have to go out and run a bunch of laps around a track.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably enough on birthday speak, right? Or anything else you want to say about birthdays?
Just happy birthday, Hope. Love you. Sorry that we talked about your birthday came up and we talked about my birthday more than yours. Sorry.
Main character syndrome. Anyway, we are in a little bit of a lull with shows, but one of our shows is back for now, Ghosts. Now, at the time of this recording, there has been another episode of Ghosts that has aired. We have not watched it yet, as Daniel likes to say, we are coming at you from the past. Dun, dun, dun. But we did watch one of the more recent episodes of Ghosts. They took a little bit of a break. I think it's for March Madness, which here's to the women's tourney, by the way, in March Madness. I don't know. I had to look to see who was like in the men's. Like, because all I've heard about is the women's. So what a powerful moment for women's sports. Let's give a round of applause for that. What do you think about that?
I'm supposed to clap. No, it was certainly, like, from a social media standpoint, like, I saw nothing was being fed to me about the men's tournament, but everything was women's tournament, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And they packed the stadiums,
awesome.
and people showed up and watched, and it was a good ratings. It's awesome. Who was in the men's game?
I think UConn and Purdue.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, we have Ghosts. The most recent episode of Ghosts saw Trevor's brother, who was played by...
You just got jammed.
And his name was Jeremy.
His name was Jeremy.
Which makes you wonder. So he shows up with
That's a Parks and Rec reference, by the way, for everybody.
Yes. I feel like most of our... Come on, if you haven't watched Parks and Rec, what
are you doing?
What are you doing? Seriously. And he shows up with the Woodstock rewards program because if you don't know the premise of Ghosts, she's running this, or she inherited this home. She turned it into a bed and breakfast. Samantha, the main character, she can see ghosts. Her husband can't. It's a whole little gag. It's funny.
Is the gag getting old?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay.
I would love it if Jay could eventually see the ghosts, but at the same time, I think they keep finding ways to make it cute and humorous. While still fitting the plot. I don't think it's getting old.
I'm starting to be a little fatigued by the way that he can't see him and she has to kind of repeat everything back. And
I think that's funny though. That's part of the shtick.
I think it was funny, and now it's losing its funniness.
Do you want Jay to be able to communicate with the ghosts?
Yes, I mean they did a little bit with the dream stuff, but I think they need to do something.
I was hoping he would get electrocuted but not die, kind of like what she did, and then he'd be able to communicate. Because we thought for a second that he was going to be able to communicate with them. I remember in the first season of Ghost, you and I went so dark because they were always showing how Jay was always eating all this food that was bad for him. We were like, oh my gosh, Jay's going to have a heart attack and he's going to become a ghost. It's not that type of show.
It's not that show. No, because even this season where Pete's ex-wife, she died in
choking
the mansion and is now a ghost in the house, and that has just been played off as a goof and a laugh. So it's really not that show to have that kind of dark stuff happen.
It's not even a dark comedy. It is a classic sitcom. Just the main character can see ghosts. But we have Trevor's brother show up. He's found a loophole in their Woodstock rewards program. That's the name of the bed and breakfast. So some shenanigans ensue. Our B plot is Pete's wife is suddenly back into him and he's wanting to be back into her, so they do a loyalty test. Which
that was the funniest part of the show.
That kind of took me off guard a little bit. So Sass and Thor set up the loyalty test and they're like, okay, well, Thor, you need to hit on her and see what happens.
Yeah.
And what happened, Daniel? Poor Thor.
Thor had sex with her.
Yeah, what? And then Sass is like, you did what? You were just supposed to, which I mean, to Thor's, credit, he thought that's what he was supposed to do. Yeah. He didn't know when to
it was really
stop
funny.
The flirting, but I did not see that coming.
That moment was when he revealed that was
the imagery.
Very funny when it happened.
I think that's probably the most I've laughed this season. I always chuckle, but that act, we had to pause it because we were so taken back by that. I thought the episode was fine. You said they played some type of game that referenced a game you used to play. I'm not a gamer.
They had a video game on there that was essentially a placeholder for Tecmo Bowl, which is an old football game from back in the Super Nintendo days. And it was that it was like a wink and a nod saying, yeah, this is what we're trying to do here, but we can't.
We get to see Trevor and his brother and their kind of douchebaggery at play. So other than that, I can't really think of a lot that stuck out to me in that episode. I mean, it's just like a 20-minute
Listen,
sitcom. Y'all,
Ghost
so.
is a perfect turn off your brain sitcom, and the problem I'm having with it right now is that usually I like to consume those via streaming,
Yes.
binging, watching, and just watch like 3 or 4 episodes at a time. Watching one episode a week is really difficult
less
to
in
keep.
this
Yeah,
case.
to keep my attention.
And like, I feel like that's been an ongoing theme of this podcast where we talk about how we don't like that, especially in sitcom format. And I do have more bad news. Ghosts is actually going to only be 10 episodes this season because, and that's according to IMDb, but I also feel like I read an article that confirmed that. And it was mainly because they got delayed in filming, the strike, all of that stuff.
You know, I think with the pregnancies of two of the pretty main characters, also it kind of works out well for them.
Yes.
Honestly, like they've gotten around it.
Well, Samantha's not pregnant on the show.
She's
but
not.
Her actress.
Yes,
is
the
pregnant.
actress is, but they've been able to.
And you can tell.
They've been able to wave it away with what's the character's name? Flower.
That actress did have a baby.
They waved it away with her and explained it, and they've just kind of been. It looks like the actress that plays Samantha is early enough that they've been kind of waving it off on her, so it'll give them a chance to just get all that stuff out of the way and come back with season. Will it be season 4?
Season 4, yes.
And
with Flower, like we already know that she didn't get sucked off.
Yeah.
You know. And with her character, if she had filmed, like I think it happened to work out with her maternity leave, but they wouldn't have been able to do the camera tricks like what they're doing with Samantha.
Yeah.
Samantha, they constantly have her with the pillow in front of her waist, a laptop in front of her waist. They
Behind
had her in
the-
a puffy coat.
yeah, behind like the hotel reception desk
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
You took issue with the puffy coat till you realized Jay had one on too. You're like, okay.
Well, it was out of
like
place
this
for a
is
second, and then I realized they were turning the air
Yeah.
down to get
But I'm sure they put
Jeremy
that
out.
in there
Yeah.
as like a kind of a wink. So the Samantha, the character, she is not pregnant though, just to stress that. The last episode of this season, according to IMDb, is entitled Isaac's Wedding. So I think that'll be funny.
Do you think, because I think they've kind of waved off, like we thought Flower got sucked off. She hasn't been, but somebody did.
Yeah.
So who? Because no one else is missing, right?
No,
Is
they
it-
really haven't explained. I don't, unless you and I like fugue stated an episode. I
Yeah.
don't think they've explained that. Now, in the episode that has already aired, which we have not watched, it's called The Poltergeist, and that's going to have the actor who played Winnie the Bish from New Girl. He's going to show
my
up.
gosh. I hope he's the poltergeist, because
I
that
think
just
he
sounds
is.
like a perfect thing for him.
I think it's going to be amazing. It's
He
going
will
to
bring that weird energy that
Frank
he brought.
Sinatra
Frank
energy.
Sinatra energy to it. By the way, when we get around to it later in the episode, you know, we are soliciting ideas for our next rewatch, and I think I speak for my wife when I say New Girl would be an excellent choice.
Well, and yes, that has already been a suggestion, so that will be in the
Hey,
poll.
yeah, it'll be in the poll.
We love
Wink,
New
wink.
Girl. One
Wink,
of the
wink.
best. One of the best.
Yeah, for sure.
And we have not since had a new episode of Abbott Elementary. I believe probably, again, I think there is going to be one that does come out. We just haven't had time to see it yet. It is also a shorter season as well for the strike. I just wanted to verify that because I know we had talked about that on a previous episode. We weren't sure how much they were going to be doing. So but they've also been confirmed for their 4th season as well.
Shows that are out this season, for me, as I like to collect physical media, so I'm like a Blu-ray DVD guy. I like to get those for the shows that I really like. The season of the shows that come out from this season of television are the things that will drive my OCD crazy.
Because it'll be like the thin little box.
Yeah,
'cause it won't
the
be
box
as much.
won't match the other ones. When you look at it, there won't be as many episodes. It drives me nuts.
Well, I can look at right behind you on our shelf that even though the boxes are the same, the OC seasons 1 and 2 boxes, if you look where the OC is, they're not like, you know, all my One Tree Hill DVDs, they all look the same. They're
Yeah.
very uniform. Look at where one says the OC and where the OC is on the other right now. Every time I look at that,
they're not even.
I'm just disgusted.
It's obviously just it's an abomination, honestly.
Truly. But we have been in a bit of a lull till at least May with shows. So we finally started a new yet old show. This show has been around since 2011. It originally, I believe, aired on the USA Network. Who watches shows on the USA Network? And I think it got a little more popular because a member of the royal family is one of the leads in it, at least until she left because she did get married to Prince Harry. Are they still considered part of the royal family even though they left?
I don't know, and I don't care.
We're not sure on that, but that show is Suits. Suits is something that I have been wanting to watch for a while, and it's actually had, because now that it's on Netflix, that's given it another resurgence.
It was number one in streaming ratings for when it first came out on Netflix. I think it was in the fall. It popped out, and it was like everybody who'd been wanting to watch it but wasn't willing to either get the DVDs or find it anywhere. I don't even know if it was streaming anywhere else. Everybody's like, oh, it's on Netflix. Okay, we'll just watch that.
Yeah, so it's kind of had a resurgence so much that I've been hearing rumors, not that they're going to reboot with this cast, but they're going to do another show in its name. I don't know how much of the truth on that. It's just stuff that I've been reading about. We'll see. I had started watching the first episode of Suits back in the fall, and then we actually had other stuff to watch. And
imagine that.
Kind of put it on the back burner. And then finally I was like, Daniel and I each gave each other a challenge to try to find a show. And I'm like, we got to go with Suits. It's got 7 seasons. They might not be 20-some episodes each season, but at least I think this season 1 had 11 episodes possibly for season 1?
I think it was more than 11. I think it was 12 to 14, somewhere in that realm.
I thought it was 11 here.
It's a good episode. It's a good amount. It's a nice amount. It gives you a nice weighty season of content to watch where you get to know the characters and it doesn't feel rushed. It doesn't feel like a 9 episode show. You know what I mean? Because it's got a pretty big cast of characters. So if you had
12 episodes from season
so
1.
if you had this show with the cast of, if you had this show and you were only able to do 8 episodes, you'd have to cut somebody. Some of the storylines would have to be cut from the characters who are in the show. It's just too much. But when you get a longer season, 12, I wonder if the next seasons have even more episodes. You get a little bit more time to just spend with the characters and give them personality.
I just like it that it's as great as Severance was, which this is in no way, shape, or form compared to the greatness of Severance. As great as it was, though, getting into Severance, I only had 1 season. Yeah. I just like that I have a nice show to fall back on. I'm going to say Suits in this, even though the premise is entirely different from it, it's giving me Blacklist vibes in that it does have that each episode so far, at least in the first season. I don't know if the drama goes off the rails. I know that I don't want to, this time we are the ones that don't want to be spoiled. I know some tidbits of stuff that happened because of real life events. But other than that, I really don't know much about the plots and the ongoings of these characters. But so far, we have that episodic format with an overarching theme. And I kind of enjoy that. So basically Suits. Daniel's like, what is Suits about? And I was like, it's about Barney Stinson from that terrible show, How I Met Your Mother. Suit up. You kept asking me what Suits, and I'm like, I was like, wait a minute, you've never heard of the premise of Suits? You really didn't know, did you? Even though you knew the show, you didn't know what it was about.
I'd only ever heard of the show.
I think you were getting it confused with Franklin and Bash, which is also about lawyers.
To have Zach Morris on it?
Yeah. I think you kept getting that, and I was like, that's not the same show. It's not.
I don't think I was making that confusion, but
I thought you were.
Okay.
But we've got Harvey Specter, lawyer, and then Mike Ross.
Cool guy lawyer.
Cool guy. I love it. Don't speak ill of Harvey. He's the best. We have Mike Ross. So essentially, Harvey, at the beginning it opens, he's wanting to hire somebody. He's really unimpressed with all the candidates he's gotten. I think they make a point at this law firm to only hire Harvard people. Mike Ross he's a very smart guy, photographic memory. I feel like they said the reason why he didn't end up going to law school was because he had to take care of his grandma or something like that. I was half asleep when I watched the very first pilot. So basically he has not he did not actually graduate from Harvard, but he has taken and passed the LSATs many times for people because that's kind of how he was making money. As they were paying, people would pay him, he would go take it. Kind of reminds me of that college, they called it the varsity scandal that Aunt Becky from Full House was in several years ago. Apparently people actually were doing what he was doing in the real world and they got in trouble for it. But anyway, he does enough. He impresses Harvey. Harvey knows the shtick, decides to hire him anyway. So we've got that secret. We have Louis Litt. That's one of their Lewis Lip, right? Or
Lit.
Lewis something.
Litt.
Lewis is annoying. I've been told that like Lewis ends up like being kind of awesome, and I don't know. Are you like thinking he's awesome in the way that people like Emily Gilmore, who was still kind of a crappy character but fun?
Yeah, I think that's the case.
He's giving Pete Campbell from Mad Men vibes to me.
I don't think he's likable. He's not going to be likable in the sense of having a heel turn and like
I don't know, maybe
being a good guy. I think it's going to be likable in the sense that he becomes less of a threat to Mike and more of just
and Harvey.
A pain in the butt.
He's very jealous of Harvey.
Yeah, he is.
But I think at the same time, though, it's not just jealousy. I truly think he wants to be accepted by Harvey as almost a friend, colleague. And but when Harvey has tried in season 1 to even do an olive branch and recognize Lewis, Lewis gets in his own head.
Yeah.
Like I said, he gives me, if you guys are familiar with Mad Men and the character of Pete Campbell, kind of you like him sometimes, then you want to strangle him. That's how Lewis, at least, we have finished season 1 of Suits, if you can believe that.
Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about today.
So right now, Lewis, at least the way he's presented in season 1, which we have completed at the time of this recording, I sometimes want to strangle him. Other times I'm amused by him. So that's kind of where I'm at with his character. What about you?
I am mildly entertained by him when he comes around the corner and gives that, excuse my language, that shit-eating grin.
I just want to punch him.
It is mildly entertaining to me. I do get annoyed with him still when he comes in and actually screws something up. Yeah. Or in the case of what you talked about with that one case that he and Harvey had to work on, where they did a good job and actually accomplished it. But then he, on his own, like without really investigating further, misunderstood what was happening and thought Harvey was taking all the credit for it, which wasn't happening.
No.
So he annoys me in that place, but I think I can certainly see over the course of, what'd you say, 6 or 7 seasons?
7 seasons.
I can see how he becomes an entertaining character. I don't know that I would go so far as to say likable, but entertaining, adds value to the show.
He gives nerd energy, like he's always wanted to be accepted by the cool kids, and he sees Harvey and even Jessica, who was like the main person at the firm. And I think sometimes he does get in his own head about it, and I don't know. I could see Lewis going being a villain, but having an epiphany, coming back. I don't know. I'm excited. So, like I said, you guys, we do a spoiler podcast. This is a show that's been off the air for a while. We just finished a season that aired in 2011 that we really don't know much about. The only things that I truly know from a spoiler perspective is that Meghan Markle, who plays Rachel Zane, at one point is no longer going to be on the show because she married Prince Harry and had to retire from acting.
It would be really funny if they just worked that into the plot of the show. I'm sure they didn't, but that would be really funny.
I don't think they did.
Can we return to the photographic memory of Mike for a second?
Yes.
Because it's my understanding this is like a real thing that real people have.
Lexi Gray had a photographic memory of Grey's
Anatomy. That's not a real person.
I know she's not a real person. But yeah, it's like a thing that I think certain people have.
I feel like sometimes I have a photographic memory.
And
the only problem is...
Wait.
The only problem is mine is one of those cameras from the early 1800s where you got to stand still for 5-10 minutes to get the picture taken.
You have to go into your mind palace. You're not good with labels, but you do remember random weird stuff.
Yeah, really random weird stuff.
The way both Daniel and I have talked about that, we've never really been the type that study. Sorry if that offends people. I will read over my notes the day before, the night before an exam. That's how I was in school, but I never really I didn't really have to study. It just to me, if you study a week in advance for something, my brain would just be mush because I do not have a photographic memory in that way. Mike's photographic memory is so good. He remembers his friend Trevor's social security number that he saw one time when they were 12 years old.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And I think that Mike is intelligent and that photographic memory enhances his intelligence, but it doesn't. I think Harvey is just as smart, but in a different way. He does not have a photographic memory. They do work very well together. I'm a little concerned that at some point we'll have the ultimate breaking of the band happen that I hate in shows, because I feel like right now the key relationship is Harvey and Mike. What do you think?
Yeah, you know it's going to happen.
I know.
It has to happen. It's got to happen to test their relationship, and ultimately they'll come back and be even stronger.
Course, I hope so.
But it has to happen. It's just required of every show like this, where you have that kind of mentor-mentee situation. They've got to have that moment. And Harvey's been mad at Mike a few times, but I don't think we've had that moment yet where
He almost seems mad at him from like a brother like thing. He still ultimately respects him. And Mike's been mad at Harvey too.
yes,
Because sometimes Harvey is the classic. Harvey reminds me almost of like Damon Salvatore from the Vampire Diaries, as in like he talks a big game about how he's not emotional, he doesn't care, when I think he cares a lot more than what people think. And he's that's the energy he gives me. Donna is my favorite character from Suits so far. I figured she would be. I love Donna. I want more of Donna in the upcoming seasons. She's funny. She's smart. She's witty. I feel like any scene Donna's in, she steals every scene. What do you think about Donna?
yeah, I like Donna.
I love
I think
Donna.
she's a good character. I like that one redheaded, curly-haired associate that's just always scared of
I thought he had
Lewis.
blonde hair. He's red.
Maybe it's blonde. It's like a
Maybe it's strawberry blonde.
Yeah, kind of, and he's just terrified of Lewis, and Lewis knows it. I think it would be funny if they continue to just have him around as a side character every couple episodes and just torture him.
And Lewis is always like snapping
I
at
enjoy
him.
those kind of characters, and that's why I like shows like this where, again, you've got enough time to kind of screw around and
Yeah.
have those kind of interactions.
What do you think of Jessica? She gives like woman commands any room she's in energy. Like she's tall, she's gorgeous, she scares me. Like, what do you think of? I don't think we've really gotten to know the character of
not
Jessica
yet.
a lot, but that's my assessment of her. Very powerful, strong woman. She gives me 7 of 9 energy
Oh, good
from like
Star
a
Trek reference.
commanding of the room. Like, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I agree. I
What-
like her character. I would be interested to know more about her. I think, spoiler alert, everybody, we had to watch the first episode of season 2.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about it because we're going to just kind of compact this one into seasons. But she does get a little. We're seeing a different side of her at the beginning
Yeah.
of season 2 because she's a little
Still
worried.
scary.
So still scary, but in a different way.
In a
So
commanding way. What about Mike? So far, I feel like the character of Mike Ross has chemistry with almost every female, except for the female that he's actually dated, which is Jenny, the blonde girl, which was the ex-girlfriend of his best friend or something like that. I feel like they had the least amount of chemistry. I think he and Meghan Markle's character, she plays Rachel Zane. I think they have great chemistry. He had good chemistry with the girl that was hacking, even though that wasn't romantic. I
yeah,
feel like
I
he
mean-
even has good chemistry with Jessica. I'm like, he had good chemistry with like the lady that he was representing about like, which I think that was season 2, right?
yeah,
A plot point.
It's like
I'm
every
does this man have
episode-
good chemistry with every character.
because it's an episodic show, so they bring in
Yeah.
a new kind of cast of supporting
Great
characters
chemistry with Harvey from
every
her friendship
episode.
wise. Like, what do you think about
And
like
he
Mike?
just every girl he sees is just like rizzing him up.
I guess, but he's not. You would think that Harvey would be the more of like the rizzing one, but Mike just has, I don't know, just that cute like soft boy charm. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you like him and Rachel together? I do, even though they're not technically together yet as of season 1.
I could take it. I could leave
I
it.
like Rachel,
fine.
the character of Rachel, a lot because she said one of the reasons why she is a paralegal in the current season that we have watched is she's not a good like standardized type
Yeah,
of test
right.
taker. Now, when I say I didn't really have to study, I mean like normal exams, but standardized test, I cannot stand it. Which I don't know. Do the LSAT, do they have a time limit? Probably.
Probably.
I
yeah.
could never like the time limit of like the ACT and stuff would always get in my head. I scored in the 90th percentile in the national French exam. So apparently for me to just knock it out of the park on a standardized test, give it to me in another language. I don't know. Maybe it's because it like means less. And I would always get really like, I'm not saying I was bad at taking tests, but I would get extremely panicked, which I think is the type of test take. She just gets really panicked.
You did
before an
exactly.
exam.
You do exactly what they showed Rachel do in the show when they were practicing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is that you set your first
I
instinct is
overanalyze,
good, but
yeah.
then you go back and you go back and you go back and you think about it. And
Overanalyze everything.
if you would just make it a hard, fast rule, whatever I think 1st is what I'm putting down, and go on, and Mike makes tells her the perfect thing. You're trying to go for 100%
You're trying to be
perfection,
perfect.
and you're never going to. No one does, because he said I was in the 99th
Yeah.
percentile. I never got to the 100th because there is no 100th.
And
Nobody
that
gets it all
scene,
perfect.
Like spoke to me because literally, for me in school, I always wanted to get a perfect score. I always wanted to be the best, and I think that's why I did overanalyze. And I remember when I took my ACT, and then I did like an ACT prep course to see if I could get my scores even better, and they got way better. That's because in the main theme of that prep course wasn't so much on the materials, it was go with your first instinct, which is like the opposite of how I am, because I want to overthink anything. You think the answer is A, it's probably A. So I that's why I really like Rachel. I think that I think fans from what I've seen are mixed on her character in terms of if they like her or not, because I don't think she's your typical sweet, nice lead. Like, she kissed him first.
Yeah.
She
knew he was with that other girl.
I like my characters to not be the perfect woman. I like them to have flaws. So I like Rachel. That's what
it doesn't matter to me one way or the other right now. So I do want to talk about the Leo meme.
Yes.
And specifically because I mentioned earlier, it's an episodic show. It's a lawyer show. So they're bringing a lot of new actors in every episode as supporting characters for the suits that they're into, guests. And so I'm going to just throw it out there that the negative to this show is if you live with a person like Hope, who just legitimately, she points at the TV every time she sees an actor who she knows from something else. And it's happening 2 to 3 times an episode.
More than one episode. I'm like, oh, that guy was in this show. Oh, that's the girl from Timeless. Oh, that's the guy from Office Space. It really is. And you actually did it too.
I did it twice. I did it twice. There were 2 Star Trek characters that showed up.
2? Oh, yeah, there were 2. Yeah.
2 that showed up in season 1, one from Voyager and one from Enterprise. And so, I'm guilty. I did it twice. You did it 200 times.
Yes, I do it every episode. In fact, one of the side characters on the show, I think his name's like Kyle. I can't remember. I'm like, oh, that guy's in Virgin River and was in that Hallmark movie we watched where they had to dress as Santas, and then he replicated the girl's house that was on her wallet. That was her vision home out of gingerbread. And yes, that's exactly how fast I talked when I said it.
And you say you don't have a photographic memory.
And I'm like, Daniel, do you remember this guy? And you're like, I could care less that he was in a Hallmark movie. And then finally you were like, yes, Hope, I remember the Hallmark movie, because we had to stop, pause it, and I had explained to you the entire plot.
Do you want to know a secret?
I've said Hallmark movie. What?
I didn't remember him. I just told you I did.
You remember him now, though, right?
Yes.
I'm going to make you watch that movie again.
No, you're not.
I don't remember the name of that one. Remember, they wore the Santa outfits, Daniel, and they ran into each other, but they didn't recognize each other because they had the beards on, and then they were chasing each other.
That wasn't the pencil guy, right?
No. That's
right.
The pencil guy is Andrew Walker that you think looks like a pencil.
Hey, everybody. Andrew Walker looks like a pencil.
This show has also made some fantastic pop culture references. We've had Top Gun references, Rocky references, Star Trek references.
You made the Star Trek. I just need to stop for a second and brag on my wife for a second.
I did
Harvey
that.
is describing something to Mike.
It's for their mock trial about how to beat it.
And you go, oh, it's like the Kobayashi Maru from Star Trek. Yeah. And then what does Harvey do?
Immediately said it after I said it out loud, and I wanted to just go jump out my window. But I knew what that was because Friends referenced that. That's an iconic thing of Star Trek, even if people haven't watched. I feel like that's how cemented
let me
Star
ask you a
Trek
question.
is in pop culture.
Up until about 3 or 4 years ago, who was your favorite Star Trek captain?
Picard.
Who's your favorite Star Trek captain?
I'm still going to say Picard because that's
Who's your favorite Star Trek captain?
Okay. I only was familiar with
Who's your favorite Star Trek captain?
It's still Picard.
Okay.
If I ever get the show with 7 of 9, she would be my favorite captain.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, I made that reference before. We also got a Frasier reference.
Yeah, we did. Like a deep Frasier reference.
Deep Frasier reference. Yeah. They were like, shut up, you sound like Frasier's brother. And it was to Lewis, and Lewis was like, hey, Niles Crane was like, and I'm
misunderstood,
like, yeah, and I'm like, Lewis, I finally agree with you, because I don't know about you, Niles was my favorite from Frasier. He made the show.
I mean, I love Martin. Martin was definitely my favorite, but I definitely like the show's named Frasier, but really, honestly, the linchpin of the show was Niles.
So yeah, that's our take on Suits. We're enjoying it. I don't think it's the greatest show I've ever seen, but it's doing the job to get me through.
Yeah.
Do you still stand by what you said about it after you watched 3 episodes? I think you like it more now.
I like it more than I made that comment, but I still stand by the idea that I guess I would akin this. Okay, I'm going to go deep here for a second. This show came out on USA Network in 2011, and I feel like I'm watching a time capsule between the way TV used to be, just network shows, and the way it kind of is now in the streaming world.
If it was on streaming, we would hear F-bombs.
Yes, but this show is very much like the proto mixture of those two things. And so I guess after watching this show, and it's just so easy to watch, and I'm just sitting there, I don't have to really think about anything because they put it all out there right in front of you. You're right. If it's supposed to be a mystery, they keep it a mystery until it's not supposed to be a mystery anymore, and then they slam it into your face of what's happened. And I suppose if this show is kind of coming off of what like the CSIs and the Law and Orders kind of are, I've never watched those shows. I can understand why those are so popular, just because I can just sit here and disengage
and just enjoy it.
And so it's not an insult. I don't mean it. What I said was like if anybody's watched The Hangover 2 and Stu's soon to be father-in-law describes him as like some sort of very bland rice meal that they feed old people and babies.
Like to say that I do like rice.
I was using that as an analogy to describe my opinion on it. It's a little bit better than that, but it's just like
you've enjoyed it more. You enjoyed it more as it progressed.
I can just sit here and just float through it. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to be really engaged. I'm not on the edge of my seat like I was at the end of Severance or anything like that.
But it grew on you.
It has grown on me.
It got better.
Yes.
And I feel like this could be the show, though, that your first couple seasons are great and then it starts to lose steam.
I could see that for sure.
I hope not, but I'm excited to watch more.
Yeah, me too. Real quickly before we go into anything else, I did watch some Star Trek. Speaking of all the Star Trek talk,
of course you did.
No, I had a reason to.
Okay.
So I got the Next Generation Blu-ray discs a couple months ago, and I've been playing with them. But
wasn't it like some kind of Star Trek day?
Well, so yeah, April 6th is First Contact Day.
Is that different than the other Star Trek Day?
There is no other Star Trek Day.
Oh, okay.
First Contact Day is the day that the Vulcans and the humans met each other in the future for the first time, as illustrated in the Next Generation movie, First Contact.
I'll say Star Wars has the cooler day, May the 4th.
Anyways, this is relevant because they're making a Star Trek, I hesitate to say movie, but Michelle Yeoh's character, who was in Star Trek Discovery,
she's an Academy Award-winning actor.
Who is now an Academy Award-winning actor. So they're making a kind of like made-for-TV, made-for-streaming movie about her character after that process. And I wasn't too super interested in it. It's called Section 31, which is like the covert Federation stuff and whatever. Well, then so they've wrapped filming and they announced some casting for that. And one of the people they cast was somebody playing a character called Rachel Garrett. And I thought, wait a second, who is that? And so she is a captain that showed up as the captain of the Enterprise C in one episode of The Next Generation called Yesterday's Enterprise. It was season 3, episode, I had it up here for a second, episode 15. And so I just wanted to go back and watch that. I had seen that episode before, but I wanted to go back and refresh myself on it. And it reminded me how good The Next Generation really is. And now that I've got those DVDs, I think I'm going to have them loaded up on my computer next to me as I work and just have them over there as my background.
Watch Discovery.
I need to watch Discovery, but I just really have a hard time getting into it.
Because you kept asking me about that, and I was like, no, I do not want to. Guys, I have to draw a line somewhere.
If to prepare myself for the Section 31 movie, I'm going to need to watch at least up through her story arcs in there, which I think goes into like the second season. So I'm going to have to do it for it to make any sense. But like I've never been able to get into Discovery the way the other ones are. So, anyways, that's my Star Trek corner for the episode.
And on a more somber note, Quiet on Set on Max did release a 5th episode. I think they did this as sort of a follow-up to the popularity of the first 4 episodes. And not a ton was revealed. Another cast member from all that came out. It was mainly Drake Bell, talked a little bit more about his story and the response that he's received, which thankfully has mostly been positive since he shared his story. But it ended up being more of like a follow-up, like what has happened, what has changed. Like there was no like huge bombs were dropped or anything like that, thankfully. I would like to not have any more terrible bombs dropped when it comes to child actors and bad things.
I have this sneaking suspicion that this is
just the beginning.
Just the beginning.
If you have not watched Quiet on Set, I do encourage you to do so. I think, like I said the last time we just talked about this, I think it's we almost have a responsibility to not let this stuff happen again. Like, we were kind of on, we're elder millennials, so we were sort of on that cusp before Nickelodeon really kind of changed to Dan Schneider shows. And Keenan has since spoken out about it, who was on All That, Keenan and Kel. He's now on SNL. And he said, I didn't experience that, but I'm not invalidating what others experience. I think they need to investigate it. I thought that he gave an appropriate answer for that. I'm glad that he didn't experience it. I'm glad for anybody that wanted hugs. I think Melissa Joan Hart, who was on Clarissa, has said she didn't experience that. So I'm glad that it has not impacted everyone. And my heart goes out to those that it did impact. And I think just as a society, we got to stand up and not let this happen to these child
we shouldn't let it happen
anymore.
to anybody.
Yeah,
but
to anybody, let alone
particularly
kids.
children.
We need to protect kids.
We need to be paying more attention. There needs to be more supervision. I know that some people will be like, well, that's the fun killer. Like the shows will become soulless. And part of me is like, we already have, let's just stop putting kids in shows. If this is what it's coming to, then let's just not have
if you can't
kids
trust
in
anybody,
shows.
Yeah.
Because it's not worth it. It's not worth ruining these people's lives.
But I did just want to quickly mention that we did watch the 5th episode. I don't know if any more episodes are planned, but since we talked about it, I felt it was necessary to talk about that before we get into our next segment, which is...
Ladies and gentlemen, today we talk about the last few episodes of the OC before we reach the finale. This is the second to last time we will speak of the OC on this podcast from a rewatch standpoint. Obviously, we reference crap all the time. So with that said, Hope, what episodes are we talking about today?
We are talking about Season 4, Episode 13, The Case of the Franks, Season 4, Episode 14, The Shakeup, and the second to last episode of Season 4 and the entire series, Season 4, Episode 15, The Night Moves. And Season 4, Episode 15, just for reference, aired on Thursday, February 15th, 2007. So the series finale aired in February. You can tell that's when you know you have a stinker season, when you didn't even get to finish it out till May. Because the OC Season 4 is only 16 episodes long, and most of the other seasons had like 20-some episodes. Yeah. So basically what has happened so far is, in the case of the Franks, that's where we learn, and characters are learning about the love connection between Frank Atwood, Ryan's daddy, also played by Hercules, and Julie Cooper. And Caitlin's not too pleased about it. So
she's on Team Bullet. Yeah,
she's on Team Bullet. Do it.
Bang.
Bang. And Ryan, at first he was like, I would be worried, for Julie about Frank. And Julie's like, no, Frank has really changed. So Ryan and Taylor are on Team Frank. I feel like when this aired, we had just finished up Team Jen, Team Angelina, back in that whole thing. Like, that was a few years removed from that, but that was like really beginning of before even Twilight, where you had Team Edward, Team Jacob, or Vampire Diaries, Team Damon, Team Stefan. And so that's just back where it was the peak thing to be like, I'm Team so-and-so. So I think they kind of referenced that. This episode also has Seth and Summer coming upon a fortune teller who predicts, who makes a prediction and makes them wonder, are they really meant to be together?
It's just made up drama to get to the end of the season. Let's be honest.
She says that Summer is destined for someone named George. We do find out later that George is not a person, but an organization. Acronym. For kind of like an environmental thing, and they want Summer. They've seen her work on her Otters blog that she started since she's been kicked out of Brown. And they want her to come join them.
Yeah, again, they knew that this was it. They didn't know what else to do with Summer and Seth.
So they had to sprinkle in some drama.
So they had to sprinkle in some drama for them there, because the rest, they did have things to do, which it's funny. It's honestly funny that we get to the end of this series, and the drama is with the parents.
Kind of more
the relationship drama, like Seth and Summer are sewed up.
We have a little bit of drama with Taylor and
by
Ryan.
this time, Ryan and Taylor are kind of sewed up on most of their drama.
Yeah, kind of.
And it's just, so now so we've come to Julie choosing between the Bullet and Frank Atwood.
It's about, the drama between Seth and Summer is about as dramatic as if you drop a speck of milk and have to wipe it up. That's how week that is. I do think
Would it be a drop, not a speck?
What?
A drop of milk. Speck of milk?
Whatever. Anyway, this episode, The Case of the Franks.
I just gave myself a case of the Franks.
So this episode, The Case of the Franks, in particular, also was an episode I revered. And I'm like, was I revering this because I liked certain parts of it? Because watching it all together, I'm like, I don't remember it being like this. We had the flashback episode because Kirsten is pregnant. As revealed, she did not have her health scare, revealed that she was pregnant. So we find, which we knew about her secret that she aborted Jimmy's baby in season 1. I don't think Sandy knew, though, until like now. So she's looking at, old memories, and we have the flashbacks. Why did they have to make the flashbacks so like
it was
tipsy?
A weird choice. I would have almost...
They're like, we want you to know that we're having a flashback, so we're going to have weird camera shaky.
Because I know a lot of times shows like to make sure, do something stylistic to let you know it's a flashback, because they don't respect their audience's intelligence. I would have preferred them to just do it black and white.
Yeah.
Than what they did, which is just this weird shaky cam, flowy filter they put over it and just made it look very strange. It's like they discovered
filters.
Yeah.
Back in 2007.
They finally got their first Final Cut Pro on their computer, and they were like, oh, look at this cool stuff we can do.
But circling back to New Girl, we got to see one Max Greenfield, who played a young Sandy Cohen, and I just think I've always thought that was funny, because Max Greenfield's character of Schmidt, we see Peter Gallagher show up, and that is Peter Gallagher, Sandy Cohen, for those that don't know. He plays Schmidt's dad. Yeah. So they do look alike.
They do. I have to admit, I was a little disappointed in this episode. You'd built it up, and I don't think it wasn't your fault. You talked about it so much that I thought it was almost like the whole episode was a flashback, as opposed to the kind of little flashes that we got. And I was really looking forward to it. So I was a little bummed when I find out it's not that. I feel
like I remembered him having more scenes than that, but that shows you the impact that it made. And I remember when we watched New Girl, and I was like, where have I seen? It was the first time we started watching New Girl, because as we talked about in Suits, this is what I do. I'm like, where have I seen Max Greenfield? And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, he played a young Sandy Cohen in the flashback episode. And then when Peter Gallagher shows up to play Schmidt's dad on more than one episode of New Girl, I freaked out. I was like, oh! And then Adam Brody also showed up as New Girl to play like a jerk. Yeah. Which I like the connection.
Which was perfect.
The casting of young Jimmy Cooper, spot on.
Yeah, everybody except Kirsten was was like, okay.
Kirsten's actress in the flashback looked older than Kirsten on the show. Like, what are we doing here? And then the kid actors, that was fine. We got to see Luke again. But this episode, while I like the flashbacks, as a Seth and Summer fangirl, I remember at the time that it aired, and back when I used to post on something, a lost relic, the IMDb message boards, we were mad, Seth and Summer Nation, y'all, because the poem that Seth recites to Summer in season 1 about I wish I was a mermaid, and was such an iconic moment because it's where Summer finally kind of sees him and kisses him, even though they do, they don't get together till a little bit after that, but it was a very pivotal moment. We come to find out, or as in the writers decided to retcon this, that Taylor actually wrote the poem, and Summer took it and read it because Seth was like, well, that's my sign that we were always destined to be together. And then, of course, he does talk with Kirsten later, and she's like, well, what do you love about Summer now? Can you think about it? And Seth realizes, that they didn't need that poem to have their connection. They are meant to be with each other. But it did bother me because I feel like it kind of screwed with the season 1 plot point. It bothered me not quite as much as it did when they on One Tree Hill, when they revealed that Brooke and Nathan had hooked up a long time ago. And I always thought they just pulled that out of their rear ends to try to make it equate the same for, Peyton and Lucas kind of fooling around behind Brooke's back, which it's not the same thing. But that, it's not quite to that level of making me mad, but I remember being real mad about that back in 2007. I was like, what? So what do you think about all that? I know you're not.
I don't.
You're not deeply impacted.
Not really deeply impacted at all by that, no.
I'll definitely say that from 2007 Hope to now, I feel like Caitlin used to bother me a lot more. And now I just see her as a kid wanting attention from her mom, and I think Caitlin's really funny. And
I mean, she is a 14, 15, 16?
The age
15,
is,
16? What age is she? Because she's driving around.
Yeah.
But they keep saying she's
we saw her
15, and I
16th
swear
birthday.
that in season 3 they had a 16th birthday for her.
We need to go back and rewatch that to confirm it. I feel like they always switch her age. But she's like, I like her a lot more this time around. I think for me, because I was watching it as someone that was closer to those characters' ages at the time, was annoyed with like how she acted with the whole Johnny stuff, because I feel like she added to Marissa's drama that Marissa didn't need at the time.
Right.
Just as a young sister would do, where now I feel sorry for her. And I do think she's really funny. And I like that she is like a mini Julie, and that she challenges Julie in different ways than Marissa did. How do you feel about Caitlin as a character?
This is my first time really seeing her, because I didn't see most of season 4. So I kind of see it from that adult standpoint of, this is just a child who is desperate for any kind of parenting.
Yeah.
From a male or a female figure in her life, which is why she was so attached to Bullet.
And that's why you like Bullet.
Yeah, because he actually gave her the time of the day.
So are you Team Bullet or Team Frank?
I'm Team Bullet, and I think that Frank, he's probably fine, but with the shortened season, they're just not giving you enough time to reclaim his character.
I feel like, I don't know if they intended to have more episodes. I just feel like we haven't gotten to know Frank enough for me to really ship him with Julie. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with that.
I think they originally, this is me going through the tea leaves, I have no insider information, considering the final episode that we're going to talk about here with the earthquake, I think they had a plan for a regular season, a regular slate of episodes, and about midway through the season, they got the news that wasn't going to happen, and that's why you got that earthquake episode to kind of like cut it and then go forward. If they didn't
know, they did a very bad job with working with what they had.
Yep.
If they didn't know, they could have planned so much better. So the final 2 episodes before the finale that we're going to talk about, like we said, is the shakeup and the night moves. So we start off with Taylor's 19th birthday. We have a little bit more Taylor Ryan drama about, does Ryan once again scared with his emotions. I like that he originally got her a good present that was like a book bound with the French poems that she likes to translate. Yeah. And then Seth and Summer, of course, get involved and each give them exact opposite, kind of like Summer's telling Taylor to do all this. And then Seth is like, well, if you're scared or something, like, yes, because before her birthday, he did tell her that he loved her after they went to dinner, but then she was kind of tipsy and revealed that she had gotten accepted to Berkeley, which she applied to Berkeley before they were together. So that kind of got in his head again. So Seth is basically like, well, if you want her to kind of forget about that, get her just a different type of present. And he gets her, what did he get her?
It was a dictionary.
A dictionary. It was a pretty color, though. And then like Seth gets her this like great present, but then Ryan does eventually give her the present. Things are good. Like we said, this is like the most mediocre like type of drama you could have. And I could see where Ryan was like, whoa, I just told you I love you, but now you're coming to Berkeley with me? That's a lot, even though she totally did apply to Berkeley before. She wasn't actually being psychotic Taylor there. Like that was something that she had thought about. And then she thought, hey, she could pretty much go to any school she wants. I feel like, 'cause she's so smart. She's like, we could go together. They come up with a plan. Everything's going good. Seth and Summer, their little drama was that Summer wanted Seth to care about stuff. So at first he sarcastically filmed a movie. Who does that sound like? Sarcastically doing something.
I don't know who you're talking about.
It's his name, Daniel. One time we had an assignment, y'all, in college where we had to design a tribal mask. And what did you put on yours?
Wait. Were we designing a tribal mask, or did we get a piece of paper with a blank mask on it and we're supposed to color it?
I don't think it was a blank. It was just a blank piece of paper that we designed.
Yeah, and we're supposed to draw a mask on it.
And I put effort into mine and got an A. You had to read. You got like an F, right?
I don't think I got graded on that original turn.
She made you do it again because what did you do with yours?
A person with a pick in their nose.
So,
she gave us a juvenile assignment, and I gave her a juvenile assignment back.
Yes. But then Summer's like, I want you to care about something. Talk about movies. And then Seth gives another Daniel line like, well, I can, talk about movies and tell you everything I think's wrong about them.
I think I think you have to give me a lot of credit. In my older age, I have really tried to turn my ways around from being such a negative Nancy about things.
At that point in your life, though, you were very much
Yes, for sure. And I'm trying to find what I'm trying to do now is find the joy in all of these things, as much as I possibly can. Because I think it's better.
Yeah, they kind of got their drama worked out. And what happens? Why does every show towards the end have to have some type of natural disaster? What happens,
I don't know.
Daniel?
The big earthquake that everybody's in trouble. Everybody's like, oh no, is Kirsten's baby okay? Oh, Ryan has a big thing of glass in his side. Oh, Rachel? Who's Rachel? No.
She was in season 1 and then disappeared.
In season 1.
Caitlin?
No.
Julie?
No.
Taylor?
The other R lady.
R?
Seth's girlfriend.
That's Rachel Bilson plays Summer?
Summer.
Okay.
Can't find her rabbit.
Pancakes.
I mean...
It was funny that Taylor accidentally shot her mom because her mom decided to finally be a mother after 19 years and shows up at the house. Not doing it. You know what you do? You don't rattle around in someone's kitchen. No. You say, Taylor, Summer.
You walk around the house and yell the names.
Mrs. Townsend, I'm here. And so they're thinking they have an intruder because I think looters probably do come out in situations like this.
Yeah. And
they shoot her. She's still kind of awful, but she sort of makes peace with Taylor. Again, very rushed. We do find pancakes. Let's see here. That episode did produce some great content between Ryan and Seth, though, because I feel like we did not have a lot of Ryan. Like, really, our Ryan-Seth scenes have lacked since season 2.
Yeah.
So Seth is kind of helping Ryan, and they're making a list of all the people Ryan punched.
Yeah.
So we got Luke, like 3 times?
Yeah, I just wish they should have done that earlier. I didn't like this episode. As the second to last episode, I think this was a waste.
I thought it was odd how that weird ice cream guy lied to Caitlin and Julie. Like, am I supposed to be endeared because he's a sad nerd? No, that's you're actually putting them in danger.
Again, if I had to read through the tea leaves, they got canceled like 2 or 3 episodes before they filmed this, and this is the result of what the writers had to put together to bridge the gap between.
I'm not sure they did, though.
Between the episode that we just saw and the finale, they had to suddenly figure out. They had to figure out some way to fill what they had anticipated for 4 episodes into that, and this is what they came up with.
I think they just poorly planned.
It could be that too, but it was bad. It was not the way you want to lead into.
And we find Kirsten's totally fine. Yeah, Baby's totally fine. We find
Ryan's
out they're gonna have a little
fine.
girl. So that's where we're at. We do intend to watch the finale, and our next OC recap is going to talk about the finale and our thoughts on the series as a whole. I do know that the finale is something that I have rewatched, and at least the last montage is something that I do consider one of the best finales. I don't know how I'm going to enjoy the entire episode, though, because apparently I've forgotten certain things while I watched the show as well.
Yeah, because you'll be sitting there be like, oh, okay, this thing's getting ready to happen.
I was like, I can't wait for the flashback episode. It's so awesome, and we barely got any flashbacks.
It's like 2 minutes of flashback.
I'm like, why did I remember this differently?
You had me built up thinking it was like the whole episode was a flashback, and I was like, oh, that could be cool. But
I mean, it has been like 16 years since I watched that episode. So
you're old, bro.
Not as old as you. Thanks for listening to this episode of We Watch TV, a podcast about the TV shows we watch. You can find more from Hope and Daniel on Instagram at We Watch TV Podcast. Drop us a line if you like the show, have a question, or a recommendation. You can find Hope on Twitter at Lil Runner and Daniel on Twitter at The Real Hobo Dan. Music for today's podcast was provided by Your Tunes from Pixabay. Artwork was created using the AI program Midjourney with prompts written by Daniel.